guys, it's Horsey Steph, and today we are back with another Horse Trainer Reacts to Horse Fails video. These get posted every Monday and Wednesday. If you missed any, be sure to check the description box down below, where I have a playlist with all of my Horse Fails reaction videos. If you guys could go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for future videos, that would help me out a ton. Let's go ahead and jump on in and see what happens this time. It's always an adventure. All right, this doesn't look too exciting so far. Nice little canter pulls and a nice little, oh, nice big buck after. And off she goes. That actually looked like a perfectly pleasant ride up until he bucked after that fence, and she was just a little bit tipped forward, so had absolutely no chance of staying on that. Another bucker, and this one just went right over the head. And I wouldn't even call that a real buck. That was more of like a bronky, crow hoppy thing. The horse put its head down and rounded its back, and she just flopped right over. Curious what's gonna happen on this one. Oh, he jumps a little bit big, and she felt that he jumped a little bit big. So she threw herself forward, let her lower leg slide back to try to like go with him. But what actually happened is that she got so far forward, now she's on his neck, as you can see. So I'm sure she's about to come off very quickly. Oh, maybe she's gonna save it. She's on top of the front of the saddle, but it does actually look like she's gonna manage to stay on this. So good for her. I don't know, had I landed in front of the saddle like that I would be staying on. Seems like a tough place to stay on from, but good for her. Oh, this seems like a terrible idea. Yeah, I mean, the girl sat it real well, but I wouldn't be riding a horse facing backwards with somebody leading me while the horse looked uncomfortable. And then to go over a pole like that, I mean, it's so hard to balance riding backwards. Until you've actually tried, I don't think you can really grasp how difficult it is, because it, in theory, seems actually really easy. It seems like, you know how to ride, so when you turn around, it should be the same thing. But in actuality, it's really challenging. Like, even at the walk, I feel a little bit unstable. I have jogged backwards on really smooth horses, and I can tell you it is very disconcerting. I feel like I can't stay on to save my life. So to go over a pole where the horse is kind of gonna like hop it slightly, you're gonna really hit that horse's back, and if the horse is already kind of weirded out about you sitting this way, it's definitely gonna get upset. And so I'm not surprised it gave a little buck. But you know, at least she had her hands out in front of her holding his rump, so she was able to stay on and everything ended well. Oh, yeah. And off she goes. That kind of looked like a bad situation. All the horses were cantering, one got a little upset, and the girl didn't look too competent there. We have a lot of people falling off over cross rails in this video. It's mostly like more beginner riders making beginner rider mistakes. I assume, this one's gonna fall off, and cross rails are set in the arena, so let's see. Oh, the horse did absolutely nothing wrong either. These are the ones I feel bad for, because I feel like these kinds of horses feel bad that the rider came off, and he did his job. He did it brilliantly. The rider just didn't release her hands at all, didn't have a stable lower leg, and so when the horse reached forward with his head and neck to jump, she came forward with him right over his head and fell on the ground. Yeah, he definitely looks remorseful. Oh God. Those ones where they fall into the fence are just horrific. I would like to not see any more of those. Let's stop putting them in fail videos. Nothing too extreme there. She's really riding back. This horse is, yeah. So she was really riding backwards, like the horse was getting really hot, but he didn't seem like he was getting too hot. And what happened is, because she was so far back holding him, he couldn't really see his distance. And what I suspect would have actually worked out in an okay distance had she not been holding, ended up being super chippy. and he wasn't prepared for the chip, so he kind of went right through it, which unseated her and she came off. I would bet money that if she had given a little bit more rein and let him go a little more forward, this would have worked out just fine for her, and the striding would have worked out. He could have jumped it normally, seen where it was, adjusted as needed, and gotten over it safely. Just my pretty good hunch. This is another one. Nothing that bad over the fence. The rider just wasn't prepared for anything to go wrong. And then you can see that she fell holding the horse's mouth and made him almost crash and fall into the fence. This has become kind of a gnarly situation because she didn't let go of the reins. Please, 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 if you fall off, let go of your horse. It is better to let them run off on their own than end up in situations like this. And again, this was just a horse chipped, popped a little bit, and she fell over the front. Because she took those reins with her, he started to go down in the front, and I suspect, it was a little hard for me to tell, but I think she got drugged a little by those reins, and she is now under his body as he's tripping and falling into a fence. And that is a situation you do not want to go into. Thank goodness he was a really good horse and just stopped when he started to get tangled up, and she was able to stay safe. But had this been a more panicky horse, that would have gone much, much more poorly. The pony. Oh, all right, so this time horse just didn't quite jump as high enough, hit the rail, and kind of like tripped on landing a little bit. My mom's horse Snuff does this all the time, and then he does a little head toss and people get scared he's gonna buck them off, but really he's just like, when he trips, he's like, ah, and tries to pick himself up. The rider should have been able to stay on that, but I will say, like, my mom's horse Snuffy does this, and actually the head toss that brings his shoulder back up as he trips throws his rider back in the saddle, so it's pretty hard to fall off of. This one just put his head down as he tripped, which does lend you more to fall over the head. So definitely a little bit harder to sit. But my mom's horse scares the crud out of people all the time when he does it. So, and generally he's doing it because people are just not setting him up for the right distance, not having enough canter, and he just can't quite make the fence. That was impressive. Man, that horse is a real trooper. I am shocked he made it over both of those fences. The rider held that horse to the most horrific chip, and he managed to pull himself forward to get through that short line and get over the next fence. But because she'd held so badly, she was already back, and he pulled her forward over the first fence, and then when he reached across to get to the second fence, she was already toppling over. As he jumped the second one, she plopped right off. So the horse was a real trooper. He knew his job. He got it done despite his rider's incompetence. She unfortunately wasn't able to go with it at all. Oh gosh. All right, so this rider, I think, obviously I don't promote pulling on your horse's mouth like that, but this rider I think did a perfectly natural and potentially good reaction. The horse just all of a sudden started falling up front, and she sat real back, started to slip the reins, and then grabbed them really hard. It could have potentially helped the horse get his feet back under him. Even though you don't want to catch a horse in the mouth, when they are going down, hitting something is going to give them like something to pick their front end back up. So certainly one of the few times I would say not a bad idea to hit your horse in the mouth. Unfortunately, it looks like when he stopped because she pulled him back up, she came over the front, but at least not anywhere near as bad a fall as it would have been if he had actually fallen and she had kind of rolled under him. So at least she's kind of tumbling off from a halt, which she's not going to get that hurt doing. I mean, it still doesn't look comfortable, but... Okay, another one. Why? I do not understand why people are consistently jumping these horses that go to jump and just fall over and have falls on their head coming over fences. I have a lot of trouble believing it is as common as it seems based on all these fail videos I'm watching. So maybe people are just finding like every single instance of it and they all manage to be captured on film and all end up in fail videos. But why would you jump a horse that does this? And horses are prey animals. Their self-preservation is very high. I have only ever met one horse in my entire life that would willingly fall. And that was my first horse, Z, and he had a lot of issues. So he was kind of an exception to the rule, I think. And you know, he also had a lot of issues under saddle. He was very difficult to ride because of those same issues that made him willing to fall. I think it is very rare that a horse will willingly make mistakes that allow themselves to fall. I typically see when horses get into these bad jumps, they will do heroic efforts to save themselves. Yet in these fail videos, I'm consistently seeing horses not even bothering to try to save themselves. They're just letting themselves fall. They're just making the bad choice over and over again. So it either leads me to believe that people have put in no effort doing poles and low fences to teach the horses how to properly jump and save themselves when things go badly, or that this is way more common than I would be led to believe. But again, I have a lot of trouble believing this is common. It makes me much more lean to the conclusion that people aren't putting in the effort to properly train a horse. They should be doing poles, very small cross rails, moving up to small verticals, etc., so that they learn how to catch when things are going badly and fix it. If your horse can't see a spot to save its life, shouldn't be jumping it. Even my mom's horse Snuff, that is half blind, can come up to the fence and be like, oh my god, that's a terrible spot, and fix it. Obviously, when he saw better, he made much better choices. Now he kind of makes last minute choices to fix things, but he still makes last minute choices to fix things because I taught him where to jump from. My mare, that I hate the spots she takes, I think they were absolutely atrocious, would never take a spot like this. They're atrocious spots, can't stand them, but they are safe spots. They're spots she clears the obstacle with. She would like to jump from a mile out, but you know what? She can jump from a mile out and she can land a mile out the other side. So as much as it's not a great spot and it sets us up for bad lines and we have trouble balancing in the corners, they're not dangerous spots like these. Teach your horses to find their spots. Teach your horses how to jump safely. For your sake, for your horse's sake, for everyone's sake. That should be common practice. All right. I mean, I would have stopped too if I were that horse. She came up and basically half-hauled him to a complete stop. And then when he kind of turned from basically a stop away from the fence, she came right off. I would guess this is a rider with probably severe anxiety because I can't imagine why else you would do that. Easily fixable problem. Just don't hang on your horse's mouth so he has enough momentum to jump and he doesn't feel like you're trying to stop him, because I'm sure he thought he was doing the right thing. Another cross rail jumper. Well, that went well. Oh, all right. I think she probably should have stuck to those cross rails because they looked like they were going well, but even over the cross rails as a trainer, I was kind of like, she could do a lot to work on her eck because she doesn't look super stable in the saddle. She stayed on, she didn't catch the horse in the mouth. He was a really good, quiet boy, but I wouldn't say she had a really stable lower leg. Her hand and her leg were kind of doing the same thing, which means when her hand went forward, her leg went back. When her hand went back, her leg went forward. That tipping over fences. And it's just not a stable position to be in. So as an instructor, I looked at those first two cross rails and thought, this is fine, this is going well, but she needs to work on her eck before she moves up. And then they put her over, like a 2-foot or 2/6 vertical, and she plops right over the shoulder. Not shocking, that's why you work on your eck, so that when you do the bigger stuff, you stay on. When you don't work on your eck, the bigger stuff becomes precarious and difficult because you don't have the balance, strength, stability to deal with it. All right, dressage horse. We haven't seen one of these for a while. Oh, and it's now bucking and rearing. Not really sure what started this horse off. The rider seems quite competent, although I'm sure not very thrilled to have to deal with this bucking bronco. Oh gosh, that was a very big buck. Again, not sure what started the horse off. It just kind of came around the corner, tucked its tail, and threw its end up pretty darn high. Not shocked she came off of that. I don't think a lot of people could sit that kind of buck. And I call those like the killer move. When they don't just buck, but they also twist the hind end with the buck, it's infinitely harder to stay on. Riding a straight buck where the horse bucks perfectly straight behind, super, super easy. At least if you have some skill riding bucks and other stuff. But when they start twisting and bucking, it becomes so much harder. And yeah, that's the part that's gonna get you off. All right, riding bareback over a blanket. I've done this tons of times. This horse doesn't seem too pleased about it, and it's now reared twice. I would probably at this point just get off, tack the horse up properly and get on again, or lunge it. I don't think I would continue to ask this horse to go forward, considering every time she asks it to go forward, it rears. Seems like an escalating behavior and probably a bad idea. She did seem very calm in that situation. We didn't see her fall off at the end, so it's also possible she was asking for that rear and it's what she wanted the horse to do, and this wasn't really a fail at all, in which case, well done. The horse reared well, you rode it well. Nothing more to say about that, really. All right, another jumper here. Oof. All right, heroic effort on the horse's part. They came up pretty inconsistent in their striding, which is always a red flag to me of your distance is probably going to be bad. It's really hard to see a distance when you're big, small, fast, slow, just inconsistent in that canter. Got a really deep chip, and the horse just popped himself up, got over it. Really great job, and landed in balance, which is the part I don't often see after bad shifts like that. And I think she stayed on this, so good job for the rider going with the horse. Yeah, she stayed on, so good job. Obviously things to work on though, so spots get better. I mean, you don't expect horses to do stuff like this, right? So I'm not shocked she came off of it. We all kind of, in the back of our minds, anticipate that a horse could stop before a fence. Obviously, when you're riding a really solid horse, it would surprise you, but in your body, you know how to ride it. I mean, who has jumped with any kind of regularity and not ridden a stop at some point in their lives? We all have, so we all kind of have that, like, it could happen. It might not be likely, but it could happen. But I don't think I have ever, I don't think I've ever ridden a horse that canters up to something, jumps, and immediately on landing stops. I mean, I'm sure there are other horses that do it, but not very common. I'm guessing this horse was just really opportunistic. He felt that release on the rein over the fence, and he was like, now's my chance to put my head down to get this grass, because he immediately went to grazing. If she'd done an auto release and kept contact on him, I would actually guess he would have kept going and been fine, because that's the only reason I could imagine a horse would do this, that he was just so hyper-focused on that grass and he was like, opportunity, and dove for it and stopped. But sucks for her. I didn't see that one coming at all. Lunge lesson. Nothing normally goes bad in this. Oh gosh. Just as I said, nothing normally goes bad in these. This horse sat and bolted. As an instructor, this would be horrifying to me. I have had my horses misbehave during lunge lessons. I've never had any do anything like horrific, but I have had them like take a couple big steps and I'm like, oh God, my poor student that I know can't ride that. Luckily they've always come right back. Or I've had them like just spook in the tiniest like startle sideways one step way and been like, oh God, don't do that. I've never had one buck. I've never had one bolt. I've never had anyone do anything really bad, but obviously it can happen even with the best lesson horse. You know, you can't prevent them from acting out. At some point, every horse is gonna spook, buck, bolt, etc. You can never say never with horses. So Definitely a possibility. It really sucks. I feel bad for this lunger because she's probably shitting her pants right now. And there's like nothing she can do. This rider is doing a fantastic job staying on. I mean, really well ridden. I don't know very many people on a lunge line that could ride that. Oh gosh. All right. Good job on the rider's part. Good job on the horse's part. I'm gonna assume that footing was a little slippery because it looked like as he came around the corner, he just lost his hind end. Luckily, when he lost his hind end, he just stayed there, let the rider roll off to the side and didn't like trample the rider or anything. That's what I worry about in those kinds of situations because there's just not a whole lot you can do as a rider to avoid that horse falling on you. And this horse did a good job of keeping her out from under him. All right, another bolter. Oh, she's gonna jump from that. Yeah, okay. I didn't think so. I mean, it seemed like a bad idea. I saw the jumps up. I saw the horse really bolting. I assumed this rider was gonna steer away from the jump, that she wasn't actually headed for the jump. And the horse was like, no, I don't think so, which honestly wasn't a bad idea because when you're going that pace, you're really flat and low on the ground, which is gonna make it infinitely harder to get over a fence. Also, you're coming up quickly and unorganized, so it's gonna be hard to see your distance. I wouldn't feel super comfortable jumping from that position, so no wonder this horse decided to quit. It was honestly probably a safer decision. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that reaction video. And also, I hope you enjoyed my new backdrop. I'm hoping to use this filming location for my next foreseeable videos, although we'll see how often I do this versus my old backdrop, which I did actually like quite a bit. So we'll kind of see, but the lighting is a little more consistent in here. So if you guys did like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And remember to check the description box down below for more horse fails reaction videos. I have a whole playlist in there. I hope you guys have an amazing, wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.